All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Think about your typical everyday grocery run. Now, for the longest time, traditional supermarkets basically looked at places like H Mart or Patel Brothers as, niche stores, places just meant for specific immigrant communities. But if you look at the retail landscape today, wow, that perception is completely dead. International grocers are fundamentally revolutionizing the way America shops and the way we eat, and they are quickly becoming some of the most culturally influential players in the entire grocery industry.
To really understand how we got here, we're going to trace this incredible evolution across 5 key areas. First, we'll cover why the ethnic aisle is dead. Second, the new grocery destination. Third, how these spots are way more than just groceries. Fourth, the rise of the megachains. And finally, how all of this is actively reshaping American retail.
So, let's kick things off with Section 1. The ethnic aisle is dead. A major shift in grocery.
For literally decades, conventional grocery stores have optimized for one primary thing: efficiency. You walk in with a list, you grab your staples, you maybe dip into that single, kind of sad, dusty ethnic aisle for a generic bottle of soy sauce, and you get out. It's just basic replenishment. But the international grocer, they optimize for something completely different. They optimize for engagement. They're selling energy, discovery, and genuine authenticity. When you walk in, you aren't just buying ingredients, you're stepping into this vibrant, bustling space filled with incredible food hall aromas. It's an experience.
There's this sociologist, Krishnendu Ray, who deconstructs the whole label of ethnic food in a really fascinating way. He describes it as a term used for cuisines viewed as approximate but subordinate other. Basically, that means it's considered too close to be entirely foreign, but still too different to be considered the mainstream norm. So historically, traditional stores treated these amazingly rich, diverse global foodways as an afterthought, literally shoved into one tiny corner section, rather than recognizing them as a core part of how people actually eat today.
Moving right along to Section 2, the new grocery destination. It's all about shopping as an experience.
Look, younger shoppers, Gen Z, millennials, they absolutely do not view visiting these stores as a chore. They just don't. Thanks to social media, travel, and streaming, they are so much more globally exposed. When they see, say, a Korean corn dog or some cool imported beverage trending on TikTok, they don't just want to click and order it online. They want to go out and experience it in person. Places like H Mart or Lotte Plaza have essentially become regional destinations. You've got people wandering the frozen aisles, eating at these totally integrated cafes, and treating the whole visit as part entertainment, part cultural exploration. It's sensory retail at its finest.
And this brings us to a really cool sociological concept called globalization. I know, it's a bit of a mouthful, but the idea is actually super intuitive. It's the reciprocal adaptation of global food structures with local culinary tastes. We've seen this happen historically, right? Think of the California roll adapting sushi for the American palate, or Korean army-based stew mixing American military spam with traditional kimchi. Today, global food culture is rapidly, and I mean rapidly, becoming mainstream American culture, and these international grocers are the exact engines driving that change.
All right, Section 3. More than just groceries. We're talking community and culture.
Because, these spots are so much more than just a place to grab dinner ingredients. The retail environment itself is actually a massive determinant of cultural preservation. For many newly arrived immigrants, these stores function as literal sanctuaries. It's a safe place to speak your native language and just find some comfort. Whether it's a massive suburban multi-chain bringing immigrant foodways into affluent neighborhoods, or a tiny neighborhood shop acting as a community center with bilingual services, these grocers are providing huge emotional and economic infrastructure. To give you a real-world example of that diasporic hub idea, just look at Watson Fond's Asian Mart up in the Twin Cities. It draws isolated Filipino immigrants from all over neighboring states who are looking for traditional staples like pancit noodles or banana ketchup. But it does so much more than that. It plays heritage music to help ease the intense cultural shock of a freezing Midwestern winter. It even acts as a shipping point for packages and remittances being sent back home to families in the Philippines. I mean, it's a vital lifeline. Then you have what's called the Ancestral Health Emporium. A perfect example is Moses Afamba's Royal African and Caribbean Foods right in the Bronx. By directly sourcing these natural, unrefined ingredients like dried smoked fish or ugba, which are fermented oil bean seeds, the store is ensuring that low-income urban communities actually have access to nutrient-dense, culturally relevant staples. They are actively and quite compassionately fighting back against the health challenges that come from the highly processed foods that usually flood conventional supermarkets in those exact same areas.
Okay, let's hit Section 4, Rise of the Megachains. These are the cultural powerhouses.
So building on all that deep-rooted community trust and loyalty, a handful of specific brands have quietly leveraged their cultural capital to transform into absolute retail heavyweights. We're talking about massive chains successfully expanding way beyond traditional immigrant trade areas. You've got Latte Plaza with around 20 locations drawing in food enthusiasts and multicultural households across the Mid-Atlantic, or Sabra Foods with 18 stores brilliantly capitalizing on the highly social shopping environments of Brazilian and Portuguese traditions and leaning hard into incredible fresh meat and bakery programs.
And then there's Patel Brothers, over 50. That is the number of Patel Brothers locations operating in the U.S. right now. Founded in Chicago back in the 1970s, it's now the country's largest Indian grocery operator, and they've been expanding incredibly fast into affluent suburban corridors. For second-generation Indian Americans, these stores are non-negotiable cultural anchors. It's often literally the only place to buy the very specific spices their parents insist on. But as Indian cuisine becomes more mainstream, they're also capturing a whole new wave of curious younger shoppers.
And of course, we have to talk about H Mart. Started in New York in 1982, they have arguably become the clearest, most successful blueprint for modern grocery retail. With well over 100 U.S. stores, they've evolved from a strictly Korean-focused market into this massive global food destination. They prove that if you just prioritize sensory retail, if you make the store actually feel alive with the thrill of food discovery, you can pull in a massive crossover audience. They are beating traditional supermarkets at their own game by providing exactly what younger consumers value most.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Reshaping American Retail, the Mainstream Shift.
Look, conventional grocers are absolutely feeling the heat right now, and they are scrambling to catch up. I mean, you've probably noticed it yourself. Those international aisles in your local mainstream store are rapidly expanding, right? Things that used to be considered completely specialty, mochi, boba, premium frozen dumplings, fresh tortillas, Indian meal kits, they are all becoming standard stock now. Traditional grocers are desperately trying to capture some of that globalization magic, especially in their prepared food sections.
But here is the harsh reality traditional retailers have to wake up to. International food is not some adjacent niche category anymore. It is the main event. These international chains aren't just following demographic trends, they are literally shaping the future of consumer preferences. They've realized that American food is this amazing tapestry woven from centuries of migration and adaptation, and they are building retail environments that fully celebrate that abundance.
So I want to leave you with a thought, something to really chew on the next time you walk into a standard, conventional supermarket. Have they already lost the battle for the future of American food culture? Honestly, can a store that's optimized purely for efficiency ever truly compete with one that's optimized for discovery, community, and the incredibly vibrant global flavors that define how we actually eat today? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, happy exploring in the aisles!